American-made piano. He would have sold it for a lot sooner if he hadn't decided to sell his pianos door to door. 1853. Personally, I'm a Baldwin man myself. Well, not Alec Baldwin necessarily, but, I prefer Baldwin pianos. All right, little piano humor there for all you piano aficionados. And for more of Today in History, let's go to the Associated Press.
September 16th, 1974. President Gerald Ford announces a conditional amnesty program for deserters and draft evaders during the Vietnam War.
I do not want to delay another day in resolving the dilemmas of the past so that we may all get going on the pressing problems of the present.
1982. A massacre in Lebanon months after Israel's invasion to drive out the PLO. Lebanese Christian militiamen kill hundreds of Palestinian men, women, and children in 2 refugee camps in West Beirut. The militiamen are allied with Israel, which is accused of doing nothing to prevent the slaughter. Outrage over the massacre cost future Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon his job as defense minister. 1498. Tomás de Torquemada, the Catholic monk notorious for his role in the Spanish Inquisition, dies in Avila, Spain. 1810. Mexico begins its revolt against Spanish colonial rule. A Catholic priest, Father Miguel Hidalgo, declares his country's independence. His rebellion soon fails, but Spain formally relinquishes its New World colony 11 years later. 1977. Maria Callas, the American-born prima donna famed for her lyric soprano and fiery temperament, dies in Paris. She was 53 years old. And 1925.
The thrill is gone away.
Guitarist B.B. King, one of the great blues artists of all time, is born in Mississippi. Today in History, September 16th. Camille Bohannon, The Associated Press.
Peekaboo, peekaboo, smile.
Smile, buddy.
Come on, smile. Oh, honey, he's still not smiling.
Maybe he's not a smiler.
Yeah, maybe he's just not a happy baby.
Maybe he's just being a boy. You know how boys are.
Or maybe he's teething. Oh, poor baby. I think his gums hurt.
Maybe he's just tired.
Or maybe his tummy hurts. He didn't eat that much.
Maybe he's not ticklish.
You think maybe he's scared of the dog?
Maybe he'll outgrow it. Maybe it's a phase. Maybe he just doesn't like smiling.
Maybe he has autism, and we can definitely do something to help.
Maybe is all you need to find out more about autism. No big, joyful smiles by 6 months is one early sign. Learn the others at autismspeaks.org/signs or see a doctor today for an autism screening. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better. And it can make a lifetime of difference. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Oh, Taco Bell, product placement with Taco Bell. Incharito, macho burrito.
Master Tang, what are you doing here?
I've come to kick ass.
Welcome back to Studio 26. And something I forgot to mention last week. I believe it was last Thursday, on that date in 1959, the Bonanza debuted on television. Wow, what a long and successful run that show's had, especially now in syndication. Well, still to come on this program that we call The First Cup, I'll have news of the weird in a few minutes, as well as popular tweets of the day, the song of the day, what's on TV tonight, plus market information in just a few seconds, as well as the CBS World News Roundup, all jam-packed into this little microchip and this MP3 file. Glad you could stick around, and hope you'll stick around for a little bit while longer as I try to find the market cart. And where is the market cart? Where is it? Where is it? I know I put it here. I know, there it is. There it is. We'll have more of the show on the way in just a few seconds, so take it easy, won't you? I know you will. Oh, Doctor, paging Dr. McCoy, what do you have to say about this?
You don't rob a bank when a getaway car has a flat tire.
Good advice, good advice. It's time for markets.
Lawrence Summers bows out of the running for a job that is arguably the most powerful economic policy position on earth.
Make it a working lunch. Listen to the Marketplace Midday Update podcast for the day's top business headlines. Subscribe on iTunes or at marketplace.org/podcasts.
From 8 p.m. in New York, I'm David Brancaccio with the global perspective on business and economics. Former Treasury Secretary and former Harvard President Lawrence Summers has taken himself out of the running to replace Ben Bernanke as chairman of America's central banking system. Summers was a leading architect of the government's response to the financial meltdown. He worries the fight in Congress over his confirmation would have been too acrimonious. Republicans were brewing for a fight, and even members of President Obama's own party had signaled their opposition, in part because Summers was seen as a champion of financial deregulation that experts say laid the groundwork for the financial crisis in the first place. This includes the repeal in 1999 of the Glass-Steagall Act that had kept banking, investing, and insurance separate since the Great Depression. David Jones is chief economist, DMJ Advisors, and author of several books on the Federal Reserve.
Summers has been placed by most politicians on the Wall Street side, and he was in favor of deregulation. In the Clinton administration, there was a significant amount of deregulation, including doing away with the Glass-Steagall Act.
Money around the world is being resigned as the news came last evening that Summer is out of the running. Dow futures are currently up 167 points, and the FT100 stock index in London is currently up 0.8%. Bond yields across Europe and Asia have fallen. The BBC's senior economics correspondent Andrew Walker and I have been watching the market reaction. Mr. Walker, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, David.
Stock prices are looking strong around the world this morning. Would you say it's the no Larry Summers effect?
Yes, I think that probably is what's going on. There have been some increases in most markets in Asia and Europe, and also bond prices have been slightly higher. And yes, that is because people think that a Fed not led by Larry Summers is more likely to withdraw the quantitative easing, the stimulus policy, a bit more slowly. In other words, the expectation is there'd be more money going into markets than might otherwise have been the case. And that, over the past couple of years, has been one of the key things that has been driving stock and bond prices higher.
Andrew, I wanted to ask you this. Can we make the case that the chairman of the U.S. Federal Reserve Board is the most powerful single economic policy position in the world, or am I being parochial?
Well, looking at it from a very non-parochial position on the other side of the Atlantic, no, I don't think you are being parochial. There's a very strong case for making that assertion. Who would the other candidates be? Well, the U.S. Treasury Secretary. He, or conceivably she, is obviously very much constrained by having to get what he wants to do through Congress. The European Central Bank chief, again, is very much subject to legal constraints under European treaties and also the political concerns that particularly Germany has. Another candidate, I suppose, the head of the International Monetary Fund, again, someone very much constrained by what member countries want to do, particularly the United States. So yes, the Fed chairman really does matter on the global scene, and his or her decisions really do have a very strong influence over the jobs that your listeners in the United States have. Those discussions over the breakfast table, will I have a job tomorrow?
Perhaps the most important question. The BBC's economics correspondent Andrew Walker in London. Thank you.
My pleasure, David.
In about 2 weeks, millions of Americans without health insurance will start shopping online for coverage, in theory. In reality, millions of people remain confused over what Obamacare does. In an effort to clarify things, the federal government is spending millions of dollars to hire navigators who can help consumers enroll. But how much help can you get may depend on just where you live. From the Health Desk at WHYY, Marketplace's Dan Gorenstein reports.
The front lines of the Affordable Care Act right now are cramped church pews and hospital conference rooms featuring weak coffee and plenty of PowerPoint presentations.
Today, what we're going to do is really equip you with the knowledge you need on the Affordable Care Act.
Maura Collinsgrew with New Jersey Citizen Action is running an overview session, helping social service providers and nonprofits learn the ABCs of the ACA.
We also know who consumers are listening to. It's moms.
Most of the people at this meeting won't become official navigators who are trained to help consumers apply for coverage. Groups are here because they feel strongly about promoting the law and are willing to spend their own resources to do it. And in a state like New Jersey, volunteers are going to be essential to getting the ACA off the ground, which is why Health and Human Services Commissioner Kathleen Sebelius phoned in with moral support.
Change doesn't happen overnight. It happens through connecting people on the ground, and you'll be leading the way.
When Sebelius tells this crowd, you'll be leading the way, she's not joking. Carol Wolf with the Camden Area Health Education Center says the state of New Jersey is sitting on the sidelines.
Without the marketing, without TV, without the kinds of things that the state could put in place, I think that there's only so much that the nonprofit groundswell will be able to do.
The government has given 34 states just $67 million to fund a huge education effort. Jennifer Tolbert with the Kaiser Family Foundation says the states running their own exchanges are spending more than $100 million.
That level of spending is likely going to matter at the end of the day in terms of the number of people who actually enroll in coverage.
In New Jersey, more than 10% of the population is uninsured. 900,000 people. Tolbert says the state's $2 million in Navigator money amounts to $1.52 for each one. Lowest in the nation. I'm Dan Gorenstein for Marketplace.
And I want to check one other set of numbers. The price of oil is down sharply this morning after the Syria chemical weapons agreement. The Texas benchmark is down 1.1% to $107 a barrel. That cheaper oil is also playing out in those higher stock prices we were mentioning. In New York, I'm David Brancaccio with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.
You don't rob a bank when a getaway car has a flat tire. Enough of the metaphors, all right? That's an order.
Colorado tallies the flood damage.
There's areas where rivers developed out of nowhere.
Who will head the Fed?
The frontrunner steps aside.
Selling the plan for Syria's chemical weapons.
We will not tolerate anything less than full compliance.
Good morning. I'm Steve Kathan. With the CBS World News Roundup, things should begin to dry out this week in Colorado, where some places have gotten as much rain in the past few days as they got in the past year. At least 4 people are dead, 2 are missing, 1,500 homes have been destroyed, 19,000 have been damaged by the record flooding. CBS's Anna Werner is in Longmont, Colorado.
The catastrophic flood zone in Colorado is nearly the size of the state of Connecticut.
We had 5 feet of water in the basement, and then I think there's about 8 inches of mud in the basement right now.
17 miles north of Boulder, Lyons, Colorado, is a scene of destruction.
Cars, stainless steel ovens out of kitchens were washing down the street. Pallets, trees were washing down the street. I'd never seen anything like it in my life.
They have a fleet of some 16 helicopters waiting to rescue people who still need to get out of these mountainous areas. The problem here is if it's raining, you can't fly the helicopters. So there are still people waiting for rescue, still people waiting for help.
At least 1 death in New Mexico is blamed on flooding caused by days of heavy rain. The governor says damage is in the millions. A typhoon has left hundreds of homes flooded in Japan. 260,000 people are out of their homes in Kyoto. 21 deaths in western Mexico are blamed on flooding from the remnants of a tropical storm. And the eastern part of the country is now dealing with Hurricane Ingrid. It's about to make landfall with heavy rain and top sustained winds of 75 miles an hour. Well, Wall Street seems to like the fact that Lawrence Summers pulled his name from consideration as the next Fed chairman. Summers had been seen as unenthusiastic about the Fed's bond buying program, which has acted as an economic stimulus. But Summers was considered the favorite for the job. Let's check in now with White House correspondent Peter Mayer.
He sure was, Steve, but congressional opposition, especially from some key Senate Democrats, forced Summers out of the running. He told the president his nomination would have caused a messy confirmation process. With the Fed chair search now redefined, economist Diane Swank says financial markets need certainty.
They want continuity. They want someone who knows what's going on and also who's willing to shift policy if necessary as the Fed goes into the next phase of policymaking.
The current Fed vice chair, Janet Yellen, is now among leading candidates to be Fed chief, Steve.
And Peter, later today we'll hear from the president on the economy, right?
Later this morning, he'll use a Rose Garden speech to mark the 5th anniversary of the financial crisis and his views on progress since then. The president will discuss the economic recovery while warning congressional Republicans about the potential risks of upcoming budget and debt ceiling fights.
A picture tells the story of what happened last month in Syria. It shows UN Chief Ban Ki-moon accepting a much-anticipated report from the chief weapons inspector. Visible on the front page after enhancement is the conclusion that chemical weapons were used. The UN Security Council will be briefed on those findings this morning.